African savanna is a place of beauty and danger, where life and death often walk hand in hand. The sun hung heavy in the sky, turning the tall golden grass into a shimmering ocean. Herds of elephants moved slowly, their shadows stretching long across the cracked earth. Among them was a tiny calf, no more than a few months old, sticking close to his mother's side, his trunk clumsy and playful. He had just begun to understand the world. The coolness of river water on his skin, the roughness of tree bark against his teeth, the safety of being surrounded by his family. But in the wild, innocence does not last long. Beneath the stillness of the tall grass, something stirred. A massive African rock python, its scales patterned in shades of earth and shadow, lay coiled and patient. It was a creature older than time itself, a predator that did not chase but waited. Hours could pass, even days, until a moment came when it would strike with terrifying precision. And today, its cold, lidless eyes were fixed on the calf. The herd moved slowly toward a watering hole, the matriarch leading the way. The calf, curious and distracted, wandered a few steps too far from his mother, swaying his little trunk as he sniffed at the ground. That was a mistake. The python moved like lightning, its body erupting from the grass, wrapping coil after crushing coil around the calf. The baby elephant let out a high, desperate trumpet that cut through the stillness of the savanna. Panic spread through the herd. The mother charged, ears flaring, but the python tightened its grip, determined not to let go. Dust and cries filled the air. The scene might have ended in tragedy, but fate had other plans. Not far from the watering hole, a small wildlife rescue team was on patrol. They were a group of 5 rangers and conservationists dedicated to protecting animals from poachers, traps, and the many dangers of the wild. Their jeep rattled across the dirt path when the piercing cry of the calf reached them. The driver slammed the brakes, and in an instant, they knew something was terribly wrong. "Elephant distress call," muttered Daniel, the team leader, his face tightening. He had spent 15 years in these lands, and he had never once mistaken that desperate, high-pitched trumpet. He grabbed his binoculars and scanned the horizon. His heart sank. Their python attack. Without hesitation, the team sprang into action. Adrenaline cut through the heat and exhaustion of the day. The jeep roared forward, bouncing over the uneven terrain as dust clouds rose behind it. In the distance, they could see the chaos. The herd trumpeting, stomping, circling, while in the middle of it all the calves struggled helplessly in the suffocating grip of the python. The team knew the danger. A fully grown python could reach lengths of over 6 meters, and this one looked massive. Its strength was enough to crush bones. Getting close meant risking their own lives, but there was no time to think. The calves' cries were already weakening. Ropes, poles, anything we can use to pry it off, Daniel ordered. The others moved fast. Miriam grabbed a thick wooden pole from the jeep. James pulled out heavy rope, while Elias and Victor readied long sticks with hooks. The plan was risky but clear. Distract the python, force it to loosen its coils, and pull the calf free. They parked the jeep close enough to intervene, but far enough not to spook the mother elephant, who was charging in panic and rage. Dust swirled around her as she trumpeted, trying desperately to free her baby. But the python was relentless, its coils tightening with every second. The calf's legs thrashed weakly, its eyes wide with terror. The first move was to distract. Daniel banged a metal bar against the jeep, the sharp clanging cutting through the air. The python's head lifted, tongue flickering. In that split second, Miriam rushed forward with the pole, jabbing it firmly between the snake's coils. She pushed with all her strength, her arms trembling, sweat pouring down her face. The python hissed, loosening just slightly. "Now! Pull!" shouted Daniel. James and Elias looped the rope around the coils, heaving with all their might. The python writhed, thrashing, but the combined force of the rescuers was enough to create a gap. Victor reached in, hooking the snake's thick body and yanking away from the calf's chest. The baby let out another desperate trumpet, gulping for air. The mother elephant charged again, dangerously close to trampling everyone. For a terrifying moment, it seemed like she might turn her rage on the humans. Daniel stood tall, raised his arms and shouting, "We're helping! We're helping!" His voice was steady, almost pleading. Somehow, the matriarch paused, torn between rage and desperation, her eyes fixed on the rescuers tugging at the snake that threatened her child. The python, sensing the battle turning, tried to retreat, but the team did not stop. With a final heave, they pulled its coils loose, freeing the calf. The little elephant collapsed on the ground, gasping and trembling, while the snake, furious and thrashing, lunged toward the rescuers. "Back!" Daniel shouted. They stepped away quickly, keeping their poles between them and the python. With a powerful surge, the snake uncoiled fully and slid back into the tall grass, disappearing as swiftly as it had appeared. The team rushed to the calf. Miriam knelt beside it, her hands shaking as she checked its breathing. There were deep bruises along its body where the python's coils had pressed, but no bone seemed broken. The calf wheezed, lifted its trunk weakly, and then miraculously let out a faint trumpet. The mother elephant rushed forward, her massive frame towering over the humans. The team froze, unsure she would attack, but instead, she extended her trunk gently, touching her calf, rumbling softly. The baby stirred, leaning against her for support. It was a moment of pure relief, of raw emotion. Even the seasoned rangers felt tears in their eyes. The herd began to calm, gathering around the calf and its mother. Slowly, the elephants moved, forming a protective circle, their massive bodies shielding the little one. The team stepped back, their hearts pounding, but their mission complete. For a long moment, silence hung in the air, broken only by the low rumbles of the elephants. Then, as if in gratitude, the matriarch lifted her trunk high, releasing a powerful trumpet that echoed across the savanna. It was a sound that made the rescuers' chests tighten with pride and awe. The team returned to their jeep, exhausted but triumphant. "That was too close," James muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Daniel nodded, staring at the horizon where the python had vanished. "Out here, everything is a battle for survival. But today we gave that calf a chance." As the jeep drove away, the herd slowly disappeared into the golden grass, the calf leaning on its mother but alive. Alive because a handful of humans had dared intervene against one of nature's most fearsome predators. But the story did not end there. For the team, the rescue became a reminder of why they risked their lives every day. They knew tomorrow could bring another call, a snare, a poacher's gunshot, another predator's strike. The work was endless, the dangers constant. Yet moments like this, moments when life triumphed over death, gave them strength. That night, as the stars spread across the African sky, the team sat by their campfire in silence. The crackle of flames mixed with the distant sounds of hyenas and lions. No one spoke for a while, each lost in thought, replaying the rescue in their minds. Miriam finally broke the silence. "Do you think the mother understood what we did?" Daniel looked into the fire, his eyes reflecting the flames. "I don't just think," he said softly. "I know." Far away, the elephant herd rested under the moonlight. The calf slept, bruised but safe, its tiny trunk curled against its mother. The python lay hidden somewhere in the tall grass, waiting again because that was its way. The savanna had returned to its rhythm, harsh, unforgiving, yet filled with moment of grace. And in the heart of that wild land, a bond had been forged, not of words or promises, but of courage, compassion, and the will to protect. The baby elephant would grow, carry the memory of survival, and perhaps one day become a giant that led the herd. The rescue team would continue their watch, unsung heroes against the endless trials of the wild. For life in the savannah was a fragile thread, and that day, against all odds, it had been spared.